should be thinking about. So the first most simple module of logic and functionality that a Holochain application has is a zone. A zone can basically be described as groups of entries, links, validation rules and functionalities, right? So for example, if you imagine like Meetup on Holochain, you would have one zone regarding events, calendar, RSVP, something like that. Another zone regarding communities. So you can split your domain logic into multiple zones, multiple modules, right? They can still talk to each other, but they are independent in a way and autonomous, right? So raise your hand when you have a question, because this is like the basic building blocks. If this is not understood, it will be very difficult to go on developing Holochain applications, right? Yeah.
How do I get to this website?
Yeah, this is developer.holochain.org. There is a core concepts guide here. It's revamped. It's very useful now. So if you want to go through this a little more slowly afterwards, do it. So what's an application then? So an application is just groups of zones that can work together in order to serve a user interface, right? So you have groups of zones can talk to each other. This DNA functions as one unit of application. This will boot up only one DHT, but that DHT will contain entries from all these zones, right? Is that clear? Yeah. How much clarity do we have on DNA zones network? This is and this is go on. Okay, so we should. Who has some questions just for me to get like directions? Yeah.
So just to clarify, a bunch of zones add up to equal the DNA of the platform.
Exactly. Yeah. DNA is an app, an application. Zones are modules in that app. When you are going to build an app, you have to basically split up your functionality into different autonomous zones that are related to one single domain functionality. Yeah.
Can you explain the DHT story a little more?
Yeah. So when you boot up this DNA, right, on your computer, you will have your source chain, right? Because that's what we explained yesterday. Source chain is your private space. It's yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You can add so many entries with it. You will have only one source chain containing all the entries from here. So imagine in the Meetup example, this is the calendar zone and this is the community zone. When you boot up this application, you will have the source chain. Source chain. And this is basically a hash chain for anyone that knows about blockchain. This is like your small blockchain in your computer, right? So this will be containing entries that link to each other, right? And these entries will be from all the zones. So imagine this is the calendar and this is the communities. Maybe there are event entries. These small building blocks are entries, which is like the smallest primitive that Holochain uses to store information. That's an entry. So for example, let's say that the calendar zone deals with events entries, right? So an event, Holochain hAppathon Lisbon, that's an event, right? So the event is going to be stored here on the source chain, first at least. This is your computer, right? The event is going to be stored here. But maybe then you actually create a community because you're like very, very awesome and so on. So now that community is going to be stored here and link to the previous entries. Okay, linked, not yet. Relates it to previous entries. Not actually. Links are another topic. We will cover that later. Yeah.
Would you please explain it with the chat and a group that, for example, when I send a message to another one, what is it exactly when we have a group channel or a direct channel with the chat system?
Okay, let me go through the DST and then we'll do the complicated example. Right, so then Joshua, apart from the source chain, which is your private state, private zone, you have the DHT, which not only includes your entries, but includes entries from all the people that are running the application, right? So here in the DHT, you will have event entries, you will have communities entries, you will have user entries maybe, and you will have links between those entries, right? That's more or less the gist of it, the big picture. Just remember that a single DNA with multiple zones would have only one source chain for each agent and only one global DHT. Right? It's not a DHT per zone, it's not a source chain per zone, it's a global DHT in this application. Okay?
The primitives that are in there, are they exactly the same, or is something different live in the DHT than lives in the source chain?
They are the same. Here, accompanying the entries, there is some metadata, like the signature. There is the update mechanisms. There is who already validated this entry and so on. Maybe in the DHT there is a subset of these only, but for starting doing applications, you can assume what is here is also here, in the same form and way. Okay. We had to, yeah.
So my source chain is stored in the DHT.
There are two separate spaces. When you store to the source chain, it automatically propagates to the DHT. Only you can access your source chain, everyone can access the DHT.
Is it accurate to say the source chain is a private hash table? Like DHT is distributed hash table, right?
Yeah.
So the source chain is your private local hash table?
Not hash table, hash chain. Hash chains are a way, so you know Git uses this, blockchain uses this. Hash chains are a way in which you commit a block, you hash that, and then the next block you commit contains the previous hash, right? So that's a way in which you basically cannot go back in time and modify this entry, because that will change all the new hashes and everyone will be able to see, hey, you didn't have this hash before, so you are cheating, right? So it's a hash chain, not a hash table, but otherwise, yes. This is your private portion of the entries.
Okay.
Sorry, because I had to make the distinction because it's not actually hash table. It's not stored like one. It's not like a subset of this. No, it's a little more complicated than that. Okay. Good? Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect, nice. Yeah, so I don't, so this is like a general picture of what you would have in one computer. So when you're developing, you would have your conductor, you would have your UI. In your conductor, there are one or more DNAs containing one or more zones. They maybe can interact with each other, but this is the whole setup you have in your computer. And then the UI talks to this zone, for example. Okay, because zones, apart from defining entries, links, validation rules, they define endpoints. So what endpoints does this zone have in order for the UI to call? For example, there can be get tweets from this user. And this is a function that can be called from the UI, and this retrieves all the tweets from the user. Right? You can define here as many endpoints as you want, basically. Everyone clear on that? Yeah? Okay, nice. So, we've been talking about entries and links, and that's what I want to go next. Yeah, so I'm gonna basically Okay, so we've talked that entries are stored in the DHT. What does this mean? The entries, any entry you commit to your short chain and then to the DHT is hashed, and that's its identifier. Right? So I'm gonna repeat that again. Any entry you create and gets into the source chain and then the DHT is hashed, and its identifier is its hash. This is like BitTorrent, this is like IPFS, this is like Git. Okay? Holochain is drawing a lot from these different technologies as parts, as components of the system. What does this mean? For example, let's start with an example and see the implications of that. Let's say we want to make Clutter, which is the Twitter clone built in Holochain, right? So in Clutter, you basically have people that are making tweets, and you want to retrieve all the tweets from that person, and you want a public feed, something like that. So yeah, remember the basic building block are entries, so we are going to define a tweet entry. So the tweet is gonna have to maintain some content, right? So for example, let's say that this tweet, we are gonna store the content of the tweet, right? The content as a string, right? So that can go into the source chain, into the DHT, people can do retweets, people can do favorites, people can follow you because of that. If we only make the content as a string, the only property of a tweet, we're gonna have a big problem. What's that? Imagine I make a tweet, right? So a new tweet that's like content hi, right? And then 2 days after, Eric comes and makes the exact same tweet. Both tweets are hashed, and its identifier is its hash. So actually, they are the same tweet. If I do hi and Eric does hi, we're gonna have a hash collision. What does that mean? The retweets my tweet would have, or the likes my tweet would have, Eric's tweet will automatically get. And this is not a behavior we want, right? Is everyone following?
Can you repeat that last bit?
Yeah. So if I tweet hi and Eric tweets hi, that those tweets, yeah. So imagine, yeah, duplicate. This gets hash, and the hash is 012. This gets hash 012. And then when from the front end you go get me all the retweets for 012, that's gonna bring all the retweets from both actually, because they are the same tweet. We are talking about the same tweet, and this is not what we want. Right? Yeah.
If you commit the tweet, it does commit both tweets to the DHT, or you get a conflict already that says like, hey, there is already a tweet with this hash, or?
No, you actually do not get conflict, because one notice like, yeah, I have this tweet, another node is saying, hey, this is a new tweet, store it. And I go like, no, I already have that, don't worry. Because we're talking about the same thing. Everything is identified by its hash, so there's no conflict.
So it doesn't commit it for the second time?
You can commit for the second time, but in the DHT that will make no difference.
Oh, okay.
It's already there.
Yeah,
And it's like, no, yeah, I already have it, don't worry. Sorry, Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go first. Isn't the point then that we have to make a tweet more unique?
Yeah.
By saying who wrote it or
Yeah,
when
exactly.
it was written? Or
Exactly. Sorry. Exactly. Yeah, that's what we're gonna.
I think I had the same question.
Yeah, perfect. So, what can we put inside tweets content to make it unique, basically? So, imagine separating between my tweet and Eric's tweet. An idea?
Times 10 maybe, or
Timestamp is a good one, so yeah, just let's put that up.
Maybe. Signature.
Oh, okay. So let me explain timestamp. Timestamp is a good one. If Eric does a tweet at one day, I make a tweet the other day, we will not have collision. Does everyone get that? We will not have collision if timestamps are different, even though content is the same. Yeah, perfect. Oof. Now you have to control for an edge case, which is we both make the same tweet at the same time. How do we do that?
Unique IDs. Unique IDs.
For what? What's the identifier about?
The author?
user ID.
The user.
Agent.
Agent.
Yeah. Now you got it. These are the things we have to be thinking about when designing Holochain entries and therefore zones, right? What identifies my piece of content? Because it's gonna be really important to get the first set of entries right in order for them to have a good fundamental to build on.
So, extrapolating this into real life, so there is 100% certainty that there are not two VMs portable living in the same address.
No. This is actually the hash of the public key. No, not my actual Granollers, Barcelona, Spain address. This is
So it's guaranteed that there will not be.
Exactly. In a Holochain application, unless you break cryptography and then we all go home and rest because we are doing futile things, unless that's the case, this is unique in the whole application because this will be a hash of the public key. You can assume there is only one set of private public key per application per user. So actually in a Holochain application, the way you identify the user is by the hash of the public key. But that you don't have to learn about that because you can just import it from the Holochain zone perspective. Use HDK address, agent address, and that's it. You have the agent ID. There was a question? Yeah?
Well,
Yeah.
So if I tweet now in this case, where I store the author address and the content, and I tweet hi today and hi tomorrow, what would be the effect of that?
Timestamp is needed for that.
Okay.
You're exactly right.
Timestamp.
Yeah, timestamp is different, therefore tweet is different.
So without a timestamp, then you have the same
Yeah.
result.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Is there any use case that it might be correct that it's like two entries from two people which are pointing to one hash? For example, to increase the efficiency, like in a Dropbox kind of application?
Yeah. When you are designing your Holochain application, there are some cases in which you want to maybe not include timestamp because you know that every tweet that's the same content with the same author is the same entry. And that's actually a feature of your application. So you're actually duplicating entries that way, right? You have to think carefully how you structure your entries that way.
We had an interesting discussion on the developer forum about voting applications. And one use case for exactly this would be to publish an entry for like a thing you're voting on and saying yes to that, and another saying no. And then if you want to vote, you publish your entry, like saying yes or saying no. And then every time someone publishes, there's a link that's created, or the signature that's created, and then you can basically count the signatures with each entry and see like how many people voted yes, how many voted no.
If I'm gonna recap everything, that overview, if all of the guys in this group send hi as a Twitter, we are just saving one hi as a content in the chain. For each of us, we can create a different unique address refer to that one, that who, when exactly tweeted this one. It means we are not duplicating the content if they are exactly unique, but we are saving the signature and the information of each person who sent the same thing. Is that true?
Yeah. So basically, whenever an entry is added to the source chain and then DHT, you have, most importantly, some metadata, but most importantly there, who made it and the signature. It's already valid. Right? So the first validation rule that's implicit in everywhere is that the entry is signed by the author who made it. Okay? Yeah.
The author address, is that the same as the private hash or the...
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's quite important.
That's the identifier of all the agents, of all the players in the Holochain application. You identify the players by the agent hash.
What's the benefit, or can you explain, like, okay, this is more advanced in Holochain than it used to be in a traditional model? Let's say on Twitter, you're verified by your email address, correct? So is that less secure than this, or what's like the reason for the new infrastructure?
Right, so this, I don't want to get too deep into this because we can have a conversation about that.
I think I can speak to that pretty quickly. That's your email address is not necessarily relevant to this function at all. Your email address would be relevant to your access to the application. So in order to download the application or log into the application to create an account, you can create whatever barriers to entry you want, which is a part of the whole membrane functionality is actually about barriers, right? So then you say, we need your email address, thank you. We need your email address, we need your home address, we need your blood type, we need a doctor to sign it, we need your mom's maiden name, all of this stuff, or whatever. And just to use the application to be a part of it. And that would be, that's irrelevant to this. Once you're in the application and you're doing a function, it's like this. You don't need email for that.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, with the voting application, entries are signed, and the private key is kind of to see who signed an entry.
Okay.
Yeah, question. If we had an email server application on Holochain, and then I send an email with an attachment to Hadaya, and then they say, oh, this is really good, and they send it to Mark, and so on, there will be only one copy of the DHT of that PDF, and then there will be links from all these emails to that.
Yeah.
So it's very storage efficient. That's the whole point.
That's it. Yeah. You know BitTorrent? This is same architecture from BitTorrent. So what you get is that if Adrian's storing a PDF, I'm storing a PDF, for example, in the decentralized storage application, if they're the same, one PDF is going to be stored on the DHT. There's no need to store two. And the DHT is efficient and intelligent enough to maintain resilience and that PDF alive even when nodes are offline. Not all the nodes in the application, because then there is no application, but enough of them, basically, right? Right, so there's just another piece I want to add to this, which is how do you query and look for things in the DHT. So bad news, DHTs are essentially not searchable and not navigational. Good news, Holochain has a mechanism to prevent that and to fix that, right? So the only thing you can actually ask the DHT is, here is the hash of the entry I'm looking for, retrieve me the entry. That's the basic mechanism that any DHT technology can answer, right? If you have used IPFS, if you have used torrent, you ask for a hash and you get the contents of that hash, right? And you can actually verify very quickly that the actual contents you received correspond to that hash, right? This is like the basic query you can do in the DHT. But in most applications, that's not enough. You can't get all the tweets from a user. You can't do feeds. You can't do lists, collections, things like that. So for that, Holochain implements links. Yeah. So we already talked about entries. Links are ways to connect two entries together, basically. So you have an entry here, an entry here, an entry there, and an entry there. This is a link, right? So from any entry, you can define links to any other type of entry. Unidirectional links, although you can commit, you can create the backward link, so you can create bidirectional, but by default they are one directional. So you can say, for example, yeah, let's more this example. Let's see. No, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, let's say that this is a hashtag entry, right? In our Twitter application, we have made a tweet, but there is a new hashtag entry. What's the hashtag containing? Only the tag. We want all the entries on all the hashtags with the same tag to be the same entry, right? We don't want a hashtag you made and a hashtag I made to be different things. No, because the value in the hashtag is that they are the same hashtag and they retrieve all the tweets for the same hashtag, right? So we make an entry this way. And then what we do is we define a link from hashtags to tweets. That way we are able to go, hey, get me the tweets for all for this hashtag. Get me all the tweets for this hashtag. And we can actually follow the link, and this would actually look like this. So you have, this hashtag here, a tweet, a tweet, a tweet, and then links. Right? Like this. So you can actually go get all tweets from this hashtag, and it will retrieve this tree. Okay? No idea. I'm following very clear. Awesome. Awesome!
Yeah. Great.
Awesome. So these are basically the two primitives you have in a Holochain application in order to store content and navigate through. Entries, links. You have to think very carefully, how do you design? Because if you are missing a link, for example, if you are missing this link, that means there is absolutely no way to get all these tweets. Even if you do get all my tweets and try to look, there is no way. You can't actually go asking all the nodes in a network for a kind of content, because it will be essentially very time consuming. So it's like maybe you have to go asking 20,000 nodes. That's not really viable. So yeah, that's mostly it. Holochain has a clear way to define entries and links, and then you can commit those entries you have defined and links you have defined, right? So yeah, questions. Yeah?
So it is possible to search on the DHT as long as you did your work on using fragments, right?
Yeah, exactly. Traditionally no, because traditional DHTs don't have links. Actually, traditional DHTs don't have metadata, so they are not searchable. But when you add metadata to the question, and links especially, you add search functionality. It's not like search in the sense that you can actually go asking everyone for the content. It's more like navigation. So you know these hashtags, so then you can, through links, you can access all the available paths, let's say.
I mean, in this case, when you write your tweet, you include the hashtag in the content.
Yeah.
So then how is the link defined in order to like make that findable?
Yeah, exactly. So let's think about an example, create tweet function. That's going to create the tweet with the hashtag in here as well, but also create hashtag and commit that hashtag entry, and also link hashtag with tweets.
So the link is another entry? Like there's an entry that's kind of like in database modeling a sort of association table.
Exactly.
Okay.
But from the point of view of developer, you have an easy time just saying link entries from this hash to this hash. That's all.
Also, so if the hashtag is in the content, you would do kind of a find something in the content, search the content for something that has a hash, filter it out, and then create that.
Exactly. Exactly right. You can choose to do that on the front end, on the back end, but someone has to do it. Yeah.
So to see if I'm following, in my case, where instead of tweets I have files,
yeah,
and I have multiple types of files,
then
I can create, instead of hashtag, I can create video, audio, doc, and link the video, because that hashtag is called link, that function. You call no, you don't call
No. This is an entry.
Exactly. The hashtag is still an entry, and then you link, and the link. Where do I write the? Yeah, okay, I think I got it. So instead of hashtag, I will write video, audio, doc, and then I would link manually to the ones which are okay. Maybe I got it.
Maybe also want to clarify, like a link is just a very simple entry, right? So a link is also, like in your source chain, you commit the link and the link gets shared into the DHT.
Yeah.
So how you link things is also through an entry, but it's just a special type and a very simple one that only has, this is the base object, this is the thing I'm pointing to, and maybe some metadata or some other comment about that.
Exactly. The last piece, and I'm finishing with this, is that you can define validation rules for entries and links, right? So apart from defining how the tweet looks like, you have to define in which cases that tweet is valid. Only if the content is 280 or less characters. You are actually writing this function here, right? And that function gets executed every time someone creates an entry. The exact same for links. But yeah, when designing Holochain applications, you think about how to, what entries you need, what links you need, and what validation rules are gonna be part of that entry or links.
Can you give us an example of one validation rule you will do in this case for the tweet?
Yeah, if the content is 280 or less, it's valid. If not, no. And here, this is a function that receives the entry, right? So you can go, is the entry that contains 281 return error, and Holochain takes care of the rest.
So for example, in his storage application example, there might not be validation rules because you want all files to be accepted. Right?
Maybe it's interesting to put a size limit.
Even if it's terabytes.
Yeah. No, I mean, a size limit would prevent to store terabytes in one entry. You can say only entries with less than X kilobytes are valid.
Well, like link hotspotting, was something with performance, or is it not this?
Advanced, sorry. Let's do, I wanted to give this introduction because it's like very necessary to start thinking of Holochain application. but I actually would want that everyone like gets their hands dirty and actually try to code this stuff. In the afternoon with Jakub, we've talked about doing an advanced entry design session. Maybe if you are interested, contact Jakub or me. We can see how to do that, and that would be on one of those topics. Because I don't wanna like give you more than that's necessary. I think I overdid some time, but oh well. I think that's all. If you don't know what to do, are a little lost and so on, contact one of the community organizers. In principle, there are gonna be community organizers assigned for you to give some support. And yeah, happy coding, I guess. Yeah.